Hi guys. So today is my 1 year Cancerversary. Today is the day that I got my biopsy results. I remember really early on in the process, I joined a support group, which was really premature. Um, and I've only now rejoined support groups. But I remember somebody told me that your Cancerversary would replace your birthday because you would no longer count the years that you live. You would count the years that you age, you would count the years that you live. And so for me, I've lived 1 year with cancer. And now it makes sense. It didn't make sense at the time. But, anyways, that day I woke up in the morning and I was still in like denial, even though, the radiologist said that she was certain it was cancer. I was in denial and I prayed and I hoped and everything else one does, rain dances or whatever else, that it wasn't going to be cancer. And the only person I had told was Paul. And I woke up in the morning and I took my daughters. Rosalie was still small enough to be in a carrier. And I took Margot and Rosalie, just as we had planned, to go see a book reading with Llama Llama, the character, at this local bookstore. And they were launching the book Llama Llama and the Mess, 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 which to this day I can still not read to her. I can barely read any of the Llama Llama books, honestly. And if Llama Llama, the TV show, is on, I still have like a really hard time with it. But anyways, nothing against Llama Llama at all. So we had been at the reading, and I had my phone in my back pocket on vibrate, and I hoped that it wouldn't ring throughout, and it didn't. And I felt this I felt like I was going to vomit the entire time, that knot in your stomach, but we made it through the reading. And anything Margot picked out in that bookstore that day, I bought her. I mean, I think we probably spent like $100 and something in that bookstore that day. But as we were walking out of the bookstore, my phone rang and I found a bench and I sat down on the bench and I had the baby in the carrier and I had Margot next to me. And Margot was looking through one of her books and it was the radiologist. And she told me that my results had come back and that I had invasive ductal carcinoma, which is IDC. She actually said I had IDC, and I said, I don't know what IDC is. Is that a content syndication company? Because as far as I knew, coming from IT world, it's a content syndication company. That's one of the biggest content syndication companies in IT, by the way. And she said, no, it's the most common cancer for women. 80% of women will have that type of cancer. It starts in the milk ducts and it grows out to the tissues. And she said they won't know more on the biopsy for a little while longer. There are different types of hormones and different types of proteins that can be in it. So you can be like HER2 positive, triple negative, triple positive, ER positive. You hear all these different types of cancers, and then based on that, they can treat you differently. But it would take a little while for those results to come back. But all she could tell me at that point was that I had IDC, and that I needed to go see an oncologist, and I should talk to my OB and get some referrals and go from there. She said some other things too, but I really can't tell you what she said at that point because I was frozen. I wasn't crying. I wasn't emotional. I don't even know what I was. I think I was just in complete and total shock. I was sitting on a park bench with my two daughters with a huge bag of books, and um, I was, 5 days away from my 40th birthday, and I had breast cancer, and I was a mess. Um, so I got off the phone with her. I wanted to get off the phone with her sooner. I just wanted to hang up the phone and pretend like it wasn't happening. And I called Paul, and I told him he needed to come home from work. And so he was packing up to come home from work. And I gathered myself together, as weak as I could, and I got the girls in the car, and I got home somehow. And when I got home, I called Sarah, Sarah Payne, who's my OB, and I told her what was happening. And she, luckily, is amazing, and and she was like, "You need to go see this center, and you need to get in with this doctor." And she got me an appointment. And she told me the nurse navigator would call me and they would set up all these appointments for the future. And I didn't need to worry about it. And she told me I was going to have a really bad year, but it was going to be okay. And she made me feel better. And I did feel better, and I still didn't cry yet. It was this very weird feeling where you just don't cry. Um, and then I just stood there, and I didn't feel anything, you know? You just don't feel anything. I don't even know how to explain it, but you just don't feel anything. You feel just frozen, like frozen in time, like it's not happening. And Paul came home and he hugged me and he was crying and I wasn't crying, you know? Um, and I called my parents and my mom said, "Are you kidding me?" And kind of yelled, like a little, like she couldn't believe that it was actually true. And I said it was true. And she cried and I didn't cry, you know? And then I had to figure out if I was going to call my friends. And I did, which I kind of wish I hadn't so early because I wish I had known more. But, you know, I have two very good friends here, Alexis and Jen, and they've asked me since then, you know, what I need. And the answer is very simple. Most of the time what I need is I just need people to listen, because that's really the answer, you know. A lot of the time it's just I want to say things and I want somebody to listen because I don't want to internalize it, you know. A lot of this is just it's just that the more that it's said, the more that it exists in space and it doesn't just exist inside of me. And I think that day when I called my friends to tell them that I had breast cancer, it suddenly existed. And by that evening, I cried. It existed. And so I called most of my very close friends that day and my family, and I told them I had breast cancer. And I told them I didn't know the details, and I would tell them as I found out, but that I had breast cancer. Um, and and like I said, by the end of the day, it existed. And I finally understand the Cancerversary thing, you know, now, because that day was the hardest day of my entire life. It was the day that I lost my future. It was the day that I started counting my years, not by turning 41, but by living 1 year, you know. As of today, I've lived 1 year. Not as of, you know, October 5th, which is my birthday, I am 41 years old. And that's why a Cancerversary matters. So my Cancerversary is October 1st. And every year that I live 1 year is a year that I've lived 1 year less. So anyways, this is kind of sad, and I know it's sad, and I apologize for it being sad. But I thank you for listening, because like I said, just like I said to Alexis and to Jen, and I thank them so much for listening, and to all of my really close friends for listening throughout the year. The most important thing you can do is listen, so it doesn't just exist inside me. It exists in the universe, because that day and the day before and throughout that entire month, and as I go through, and like I said, I won't have something every single day because a lot of it took, you know, weeks and days. So my journey for the month and for as I go through these stories, we'll have gaps, but a lot of it didn't hit me. You know, a lot of it I was in shock for, but much of it was just it didn't exist until I said it aloud. And once I said it aloud, it existed. And it needs to exist. You know, we need to feel it. Because if we don't feel it, then we're not motivated. And if we're not motivated, then we don't act. And a lot of you know my story, and you know how I advocated for myself and how I changed the entire scenario of my future by advocating for myself. And for those of you that don't, by the end of this you will. But I changed my entire trajectory of my future by advocating for myself. And if I hadn't had people to listen to me, I don't think that would have been the case. And at the very beginning, when everybody said the word fight, and they said the word hope, and they said the word, any of those words, brave, I got very mad. I was like, I don't want to be a fighter. I don't want to be a hope. I actually said, I, of course, got the most cliche cancer of all. I couldn't have gotten something cooler. I got pink. I hate the color pink. You know, I said all these silly things. But you know what? by the end of it, I will say that the more the people listened and the more that they made me feel the things that I needed to feel, the more motivated I got, and the more that I advocated, and the more that I fought. And so listening was the most important thing that anybody could do for me. And by listening to me right now, and by listening to everybody that's speaking this October and writing, you are doing the greatest service of all to these cancer patients, survivors, victims. You're doing so much. So thank you for listening to me, and thank you for listening to everybody. And that's it for today. This is my Cancerversary. I'm sorry for being teary-eyed. Like I said, I had a lot of people listen to me, so I'm very emotional. That's it. Have a really nice day, and I thank you.